Back in the day, John lived in a one-bedroom apartment with his mom, where he slept on the living room couch. He didn't mind. This was in the era before the ubiquitous smartphone, and as a result, John did his surfing via transistor radio, listening through a little earphone so as not to disturb the old lady. But some nights, or some early mornings, he would read instead, using a flashlight in order to, once again, not disturb his mom. John liked to read books about the paranormal, such as Passport to the Supernatural by Bernhardt J. Hurwood, Our Haunted Planet by John A. Keel, Dwellers in Darkness, The Enigma of the Supernatural by John Macklin, Strange World by Frank Edwards, The Supernatural by Hill and Williams. He even had a Canadian paperback called Exploring the Supernatural by R.S. Lambert. John especially liked the books, which featured a collection of short, scary stories. If one sucked, there was always the next one to try. This happened one night, or one early morning, when John was around 13. He'd just finished reading a story about a young woman who had gone to a rural area to paint landscapes. After a day of art, she was walking back to her lodgings along some railroad tracks when she realized she was being followed by a shadowy figure. And when it drew closer, she saw it was an enormous wolf walking on its hind legs, a werewolf. It was rushing towards her when she shone her flashlight at it, and the werewolf vanished. Later, the young woman learned that a local rustic had been suspected of being a werewolf, but had since died. Had she seen his ghost? John didn't know. He had fallen asleep with the book in his hand. Sometime later, around the hour of the dead, 3 a.m., John woke up. And he had to pee. Too much beer. Root beer, that is. John lay in that twilight state between exhaustion and urgency, wanting to stay where he was, but knowing he couldn't. He was just about to get up when he had a sudden vision. There was a man in the hall leading to the bathroom. John didn't know how he knew this, but he could see the man in his mind's eye, dressed in a black cloak, standing motionless, waiting for him. And if that wasn't bad enough, the guy looked like Claude Rains. Dunno who Claude Rains was? John did. John was a natural-born night owl, and on weekends would watch The Late Show until the dawn's early light, or when they signed off by playing the national anthem. As a result, he knew all the actors from the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s. Claude Rains had been the Invisible Man. He had also been Lon Chaney Jr.'s dad in The Wolfman. His most famous role was as the corrupt police inspector in Casablanca, but John's personal favorite was his portrayal of the Phantom of the Opera, and in his vision, John saw him as the Phantom, complete with mask, standing silently in the hall. This vision had been accompanied by an intense wave of fear, and in John's sleepy head, The phantom Rains had become jumbled with the ghostly werewolf in the story. John knew that if he attempted to use the bathroom, the man would attack him, harm him, maybe even kill him. But he had to pee. Besides, he was half asleep, so he probably dreamed the whole thing anyway. There wasn't any man in the hall, and if there was, he was probably just a ghost. Claude Rains was certainly dead enough. And he still had to go. Very badly. John left the couch and crept to a corner where he could look down the hall. There was something there, an indistinct figure. John switched on the lights and the figure vanished. There was nothing and no one there. It had all just been an optical illusion or a figment of dream or imagination. Claude Rains was long dead, and there were no such things as werewolves or ghosts. He switched off the lights before he woke the old doll, did his business, and returned to his couch, where, if he didn't sleep the sleep of the just, he slept nevertheless. John felt some pride in having faced his fears. When he was younger, he would have stayed on the couch, paralyzed with terror, and probably pissed himself. Still, for several nights, he dreamed the phantom was still in the hall, waiting for him, and a few times outside, like when taking a shortcut along the train tracks, he thought the man was following him. Still, he couldn't be sure. It was probably just some guy walking home. So, John survived, grew up, went to uni, got a job, got married, had kids, got divorced, got remarried, got divorced, retired. Along the way, he learned that the story of the ghostly werewolf that had frightened him as a young teen had actually been written by the Irish ghost hunter Elliott in his book Werewolves. After the dog done died, John was alone in the house, but he was okay with that. He had the internet, and as he was by himself, he could stay up all night and watch paranormal videos on YouTube. YouTube, the modern equivalent of paperback books. Sometimes he'd laugh. It was just like being a kid again, sleeping on the couch in that crappy apartment, listening to the transistor radio. John was going to bed one night around 3 a.m. when he took one last look out his front window. A figure was standing on the road, looking at the house. A man with gray hair, wrapped in a cloak, face covered by a mask. It was Claude Rains from the 1943 Phantom of the Opera. John shrugged. I must be dreaming, he told himself. Time to go to bed. It was still dark when he woke up later on. Like most old guys, he had to pee half the night. He stepped into the hallway and came face to face with the man with the mask and the black cloak, waiting for him. John turned on the hall light to make him go away. But he didn't go away. But John did, and has never been seen since. The moral of the story: werewolves and ghosts, like the Mounties, always get their man. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories, featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, Werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs. Till midnight. Cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix here, that's PX here, while the music was the classic and haunting Ghost Processional by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.